everyone. Welcome to the Forgotten Fields Project. I'm Robin Reed, alongside Tara Williamson of Williamson Farms in Botetourt County, Virginia. Also joining us for a deeper insight to food, farm, and fellowship is Chuck Miller. In this episode, we're going to wander into weather folklore. Some interesting observations ahead. Stay with us. Hi there, Tara. It's always good to be with you. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Robin?
I'm okay. Got through the coffee, sniffy fever thing that was going around here. Not a lot of fun, but it passes with time. So, feeling better now. How's your family? They all healthy?
I mean, it waxes and wanes, but, that's the change of season here. Human bodies were so delicate.
Exactly. We're just we aren't delicate. I like that. We've got some cool stuff to talk about in this episode, and so I'm kind of wondering what's top of mind for you right now with spring literally just around the corner. What are you thinking about?
Taxes, literally for the farm.
Yes,
little F.
absolutely.
That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, actually planting corn very, very soon, so that'll actually be exciting.
Yeah. Got enough moisture?
Yeah, that was quite. Actually, we only had 1/10 of an inch.
I know.
The other, so I don't really know what that little prediction was, but.
We'll talk about that later. Got enough, have you had enough wind?
Oh my God. Yeah, luckily all the fences and everything are okay. That's always the first thing we check for, because, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah.
I was looking out the window. It was, 2 a.m, and it was blowing so hard a couple of days ago, and all the metal roofing on the barn was just flapping independently in the winds. And I was so sure when we woke up that most of it was gone. No, I was sitting back down right where it belonged.
Really?
Yeah, but it put on a pretty good show.
You are lucky, because those gusts were getting up to, 40 some miles an hour? 50.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, all right, well, we've all survived that. Chuck, we're excited to welcome you to our discussion today. Glad to have you here. Kind of wondering how things are in your world right now.
Well, first, it's great to be here, and it's great to be with both of you. Things in my world are soon to be looking up, because I think tomorrow the weather's starting to warm up again. So I'm done with winter and all that comes with it. So I'm looking forward to, at least for a little bit, mowing grass and definitely planting a garden.
Did you actually keep your yard perfectly manicured and you like it grass, or what do you do with yours specifically?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Huh.
I'm one that really has to take a good long look at the rows, and they need to be pretty straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually now now that we have bees and stuff, I love clover. Used to be up in Northern Virginia, you see clover and it's just die, whatever you can spray, But here it's beautiful. I don't know why we just don't let nature take its course with the natural carpet around our house. I don't know why everything's got to be so pristine. And
do you love crabgrass? It's okay if you don't.
It's not like harsh underfoot or anything, so I'm okay with it.
You know what's something that's pretty interesting is out of all of our manicuring that we do around our houses, and we try feverishly to keep the weeds out. We're the one that call them weeds, right? Some of them are actually beautiful.
Eeyore said even weeds are flowers if you take the time to look, right?
That is right.
So, sure. Bless his heart, yeah. But, yeah, it is weird how we assign labels to that.
True.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. Dandelions could be a weed, but we also put it in salads. It's great. Just love it. So I don't really know where the distinction is there, except for humans saying like, don't like, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Creative humans ferment that stuff and see what happens.
Oh.
Dandelions.
Oh, okay. I thought it was another type of.
No. You can do stuff with that.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, you two are going to be a handful today. I can see that completely. So with that in mind, let's bring in another handful to our discussion today. Someone I had a chance to talk to earlier because he couldn't join us for the podcast, but he was available by phone for a little while, and that's a gentleman by the name of Kevin Myatt. If you ever had a not a Washington Post, if you had a Roanoke Times in your living room, you would have seen his name as an editor of the newspaper, and also he had a very popular weather almanac thing that he wrote. He's not a meteorologist, but he just loved the topic. So he would write lots of interesting things about weather. He's actually at the Virginia Tech and Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine right now as their communications director. He also contributes now for Cardinal News. He's their weather story almanac person every week. And before that, he was with the Roanoke Times for a long time. And the most exciting thing he did with Virginia Tech was he chased tornadoes with the students there a couple of weeks each summer. So he's had a really interesting background. He no longer works for the Roanoke Times as they've sort of folded into a different direction, but you can find Kevin on Facebook, Instagram, X, and many other social media platforms. So he was a busy guy. He couldn't join us tonight, but we caught him earlier today, talked to him by phone, and we got to know a little bit about what he thinks about weather folklore. Well, greetings to you, Kevin, on this sunny, cold, mid-March day. We are delighted to have you join us. How are things in your world?
I'm doing good on the whole.
Good. Very, very pleased to hear this. You know, we've known each other for a pretty long time and lots of chances to observe nature and the mood swings that nature can bring to us. How about if we get a little whimsical? You told me one time a while back that weather folklore is an interesting thing for you, and you've heard some stories and you've heard some ideas about what makes what. Are you skeptical? Are you on board? How would you describe your relationship with weather folklore?
I am largely skeptical, to be very honest with you. Not so much that there isn't a seed of truth. There is a lot of different pieces of weather folklore that there's some kind of seed of truth in. Sometimes we don't know what that seed of truth is, but people, settlers or Native Americans or others in our history observing things over a long period of time would notice patterns. Sometimes they probably were coincidence, and sometimes they might have had some kind of correlation. But there's so much weather folklore that we kind of take out of context from its original, how it was developed. Like the one act that comes to mind is the fogs in August folklore.
Right.
How many fogs in August you see is how much snow you're going to have.
Right.
Or how many times it's going to snow in the winter. I don't know if there's, some kind of correlation between moisture levels early in, late summer that followed into the winter. I don't know if that had some coincidence somewhere, but if you take that out of wherever that folklore was developed, it doesn't make a lot of sense. If Miami has free fogs in August, they're still not going to get any snow in the winter. And around here, the problem is the river valleys get more fog than middle and higher elevations,
Right.
generally speaking. So, and that's the reverse of what happens in the winter. Is the high ridge tops get the snow and middle gets less, and the deep valleys get even less. So, if there's, if you're beside the James River, the New River, the Roanoke River, and you get 20 fogs in August every morning, some years when it's a little bit more moist, almost every morning, you're not going to have 20 snows in the valley when there's only 2 or 3 up on the ridgetop. That just doesn't make any sense. So, it's important that, we understand these elements of folklore for the time and place they were developed. And now with the internet, they spread all over the place and they become kind of this is the way it is everywhere kind of thing.
Right, right. Although, if you walk through the library, and we did the other day, we went through the Fincastle Library and just pulled out every book that had the words folklore, weather folklore in them, and weather wisdom, and that sort of thing. And there's lots of stories. But I remember the first time I picked up a book that said a January fog will kill a hog. And that made me want to read the book because I needed to find out what that causality was all about. And it turns out it's kind of complicated. But when we were doing our previous jobs in the newspaper and in television, we would have a lot of feedback from audience, and I suspect you had a lot of feedback from your readers. But one that really stuck with us for a long time was a lady down in Wytheville who would get migraine headaches. And those migraines would come right before a major storm, generally snowstorm. She was a snowstorm folklore predictor. And the more the migraine was, the more inches of snow we would get. And we kind of had to take that seriously because in her heart, she took the time to call and explain her methodology. So there you go, migraines and snow amounts. They're connected. Did you know that?
Well, that's actually one that I would give a little bit more credence to than some others because, there is a relationship between the way our bodies feel and barometric pressure. And, theoretically, I don't know if it would just be for snowstorms. It seemed like, a tropical system moving inland or something would be, even more of a headache. But, generally speaking, the lower the barometric pressure with a developing storm system, the more intense the lift is going to be, and the more moisture is going to be squeezed out, and the more precipitation you're going to have. If it's cold, that's going to be snow. I think, the storm, I know somebody who drove themselves to the hospital during the December 2009 snowstorm that we had that was 18 inches. She drove herself. She was pregnant and was going into labor. Drove herself to the hospital through the snowstorm. But she said it was like a hospital, like a movie, horror movie scene in a hospital. There was screaming and people going into, women going into labor everywhere. And that was, I can't speak, I'm not the kind of medical scientist that could speak to that, but it would seem that barometric pressure would have an impact on a lot of things. Sure, to affect our bodies. So, yeah, I would give the migraine lady a little more credence maybe than some of the other things we have.
Oh, no, we did. We congratulated her on the air anytime it was close, and she enjoyed that feedback and always came back. I remember when our children were being born, you spent some time in the hospitals during labor or maybe false labor. You're just in the hospital and you're in the maternity ward, and the nurses will tell you flat out that if there's a full moon, the babies will be born that day or that night. I'm not exactly sure what the pull of the moon has to do with that, but they say their observation is full moon, time for the baby.
Where the moon is affects our tides, so I mean, if it can pull an ocean on the shore a few more feet, maybe you can do that too. Again, it's kind of outside my expertise, but I dare say that what is the human body, 75% water or something? I mean, so
A bunch, yeah.
I'm not gonna stand here and make an expert statement that that's exactly true, but that one's another one that sort of, I can see where that would sort of make sense.
Okay.
The whole red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky at morn, sailors take warn. That was for a specific area of the ocean sailors would be plying. That would be I think it was an area of easterlies, so it would sort of be the opposite from a lot of where we have westerly, dominant weather patterns. So, if you take these pieces of folklore out of where they were developed and just spread them on the internet, and everybody, everywhere thinks that that's for them, then it becomes, it becomes a little less credible.
Right, right. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I always tried that little poem in my head and was watching the weather, and it always seemed to be backwards. And now I think you've explained why. I'm looking at the wrong set of winds in the wrong, I don't know, hemisphere. If you don't mind, we'll ring you up here down the line and maybe continue the conversation about interesting weather things that you're seeing. And we always appreciate your insight.
Thanks a lot, Robert.
Care if you ever get a chance to meet Kevin, I think you two would go into a corner because he's science 24/7. He loves him some science.
My man.
I could just see you two really enjoying that conversation very, very much. So hopefully we can do that. We've invited him back for future episodes. So maybe he's volunteered to come to our podcast studio. So we'll see what happens next.
Too.
So
Okay.
we're talking about weather folklore, and because you can, if you go to the public library, because your wife signs you up for a card, and then you go there and people help you check stuff out, it's a fascinating experience to revisit that from my childhood, and I'm happy to be doing that. We're going to take a little slice out of the folklore of American weather from Eric Sloan. And some of the stuff in here was just kind of fun and kind of reminds you of some things. So we've all heard the phrase, it's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring. What was the thing? He jumped out of bed and bumped his head and couldn't get up in the morning? Or did I make that up? Is that part of the thing? I don't remember. The first part. Yeah, okay.
That's a hangover.
Okay. All right, yeah. So anyway, a lot of weather folklore was written in poetry so people could remember it and could recite it later. And it turned out that there was some sort of almanac-type feature called Robin's Almanac. So I thought I would read something from that, and then I realized it's not very good. dating back to the 1600s, but it's really just parody stuff. So if somebody wrote something clever, then this almanac would parody it, and I don't want to do that today. But the thing it tricked me into really reading it 2 or 3 times is the old "It's raining cats and dogs." On your farm, when it's raining really hard, have you ever thought to say, "It's raining cats and dogs"? Have you ever said that out loud?
Mm-mm.
You've never said that.
No, I say a lot of stupid things out loud.
But you don't say that? Chuck, have you ever said that
I
before?
have said it.
Okay,
Yes.
it's a thing, right? It's raining cats and dogs. It's both a misprint and a mispronunciation of the original phrase. It's raining cats and ducks, which makes a little bit more sense because German people would say it's raining to keep in the cats and bring out the ducks. And then they also said it's snowing for cats and ducks, which meant that the snowfall was sufficient to track a cat or a duck through it. So if the duck got away, you could just follow the duck tracks in the snow. It's snowing cats and ducks. With that as a lead-in, what have you been thinking about weather folklore-wise that you would like to share with us? And, be careful here.
Well, actually, the one thing is I have a picture of it. I meant to send it to you. Back when we had that little bit of that icy snow, was it the day before or so?
Yeah.
We actually had that ring, that halo around the moon. It was the first time I'd ever looked up and saw it, and it freaked me out so bad. I had never actually seen it that clearly.
Yeah.
I am blind though, but beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It was a very well established, like delineated gap around the moon, and the clouds are just in this beautiful circular shape. It was the most astonishing thing, and I had never really seen it plain as day, night before.
What's the folklore established with it? Do you know?
It's supposed to mean oncoming snow is imminent.
A change in the weather. Yeah.
Something about ice crystals reflecting something.
Sure. Ice crystals aloft. Yeah.
Yeah.
But embedded in that, what's the folklore in terms of guessing what's about to happen specifically?
I mean, you see that halo, and winter weather is.
Chuck, have you ever heard the phrase, you count the number of stars inside the halo and that's how many inches of snow you're going to get?
No, I just learned something new.
So when you see the halo, if you can see through it and the stars, at night, you count them, and then that's how many inches of snow you're going to get. Is it accurate?
Seems like a shot in the dark for that. I mean.
Understatement of this podcast, yeah. No, but you're right. The halo is the ring of ice crystals that the moon is creating with its bright light. And so that always means there's a change coming. So you would be well folklored to say change is coming.
I was excited because I thought, some apocalyptic event, something was coming to LA, and I thought, take me with you, please, God. So.
Oh, man.
Well, the snow did come.
It did.
Yeah.
So it was at least accurate in that sense this time.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's a rhyme associated with it, probably.
We can find one, I feel sure.
But that's the one I've really enjoyed. But other types of folklore rhyme-wise, do you guys rhymes?
I just so happen to have a couple.
There you go.
That maybe, you may have heard of them before and maybe not, but here's one. Frogs croak more when it's about to rain. You've heard of that one? Wow. I didn't do a good job. Stumping Robin.
I'll play dumb on the next one. Go.
All right, here we go. Spiders weave smaller webs before storms.
Oh, okay. I like that one. That's logical, though. Yeah.
The stronger the morning dew, the fairer the weather.
True.
So there's legit.
Yeah. Because the weather's drying out and it's colder, and so the dew forms, and then that takes care of the moisture for the time being, and so it'll be fair.
Okay.
That's legit, right? That's like science rolled up into.
I just barfed science out there. I don't know if it's.
I thought it was like some transpiration, respiration thing with little.
Yes.
Wow.
Do that. No, do that. Yeah.
What about when cows lie down?
Oh, that one's absolutely true.
That's called ground beef.
That is true.
Yep.
What happens when a cow gets shook up in a thunderstorm? What do you call that?
Milkshake.
Milkshake.
Right.
But depends on the cow. Yeah, so rain is supposedly coming. What about, here's one. When birds fly low, storms are near. Did I say that?
Birds fly.
Apparently I didn't say that.
Maybe that's what happened to Fabio.
You're going to love this one. You're going to love this one. A ring around the moon means rain or snow is coming.
True. Always true.
I like it.
Yeah.
Last one.
Okay.
Last one. March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb.
Oh, okay. I do remember that.
God.
Well, it's going to do that.
It's going to come in and it's going to go out, but no.
Okay, now we were taught in elementary school, it comes in like a lion, out like a lamb, or in like a lamb, out like a lion.
Right.
Is it?
Did you track it after that?
Hell no, I had to
Just
study for the
scratch
SOLs, Robin. That was all we had to do in school.
So you know what's interesting about this? To me, maybe to no one else. I think it's interesting that we hear these things, we've grown up hearing these, and people will absolutely 100% believe in these folklore. Okay? Another thing that maybe even perhaps the same person would do would give the weatherman up the road if they miss the forecast. They'll believe what this says is folklore says, but they won't believe what the weather person says.
That is very true.
Isn't that interesting?
It's almost like it's their some kind of cultural tie too, I think. I don't know. Do they feel more attached to these? Because it's really just collective memory. That's what these things are, right? It's their culture embedded in some rhyme or saying. So you think it represents them as an extension of themselves?
I think so.
They feel more obligated. They have no, well, not affiliation, but I don't know, honor to the weatherman over here, but to that.
Well, they have more history with those
Yeah.
folklores than they have with whoever the current weather person is.
They're defined by that, and this if it doesn't meet their.
But the weather person has science and technology,
Oh.
and that it is
I
interesting.
feel like I'm on thin ice over here if I say anything different.
No, you're fine. Go for it. But you're right. But it's also the human part.
Right.
People are happy to remember things in their life that, make them happy or comfortable or, just it's fun. But when something goes a little awry, if you have a human being in which you can have some interchange with and blame or congratulate, it can go either way. That happens, but the folklore stays there all the
I think
time.
it is your vessel or object in which we
Absolutely.
throw our shame.
Let me walk through this little mess and see if I can get yelled at today.
One other component to consider is it probably came from Meemaw or Peepaw or whoever it is, right?
Yes.
And you're not going to go against what they have said for years.
Hell no, that's stoned.
Right.
Yes.
It's like that rodent that has to see his shadow
Mm-hmm.
or not.
Well, right. Again, and that rodent doesn't work in other parts of the country because in Pennsylvania, you only have that one thing going on, but that's the sunlight in Pennsylvania or the dark in Pennsylvania, but that doesn't work in Indiana.
So is it the location or the animal?
It's the location.
Ah,
Yeah.
So we could use a rabbit.
We could use anything we wanted.
That's interesting.
In fact, there's one I forget the one in West Virginia. They had one that wasn't a groundhog. It was something else. And they tried to get it going. It was a West Virginia college or university. And they tried to make that the next big thing. It didn't take off, but, they just picked another critter and it didn't take off. But what's the number one reason or what's the number one way people think about weather folklore today and where do they get it from besides Meemaw? Somebody just whip out their phone and just hold it up.
Oh,
Reddit.
Yeah, that's the device today. That's it. That's all people do is they go to the device and it's not a great friend, but it's there. And all you have to do is look it up and there's 88,000 folklores there. So they pick one and that's it. So that's our new thing. But people don't yell at their device, but they will yell at the weatherman if he walks by. Or the weather girl if she walks by.
That's true. I mean, that's because we can anthropomorphize it.
Exactly.
Soon to be with AI, I'm sure. But
Exactly.
do we just need someone to blame or?
yes,
Yes,
it is something to stick pins in. It really is just a live voodoo doll.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Huh.
But I like the stuff because it's all pattern recognition. Before satellites and radar and stuff, you just had. I mean, how many years, how many generations of experience seasons do you think are in each one of these popular phrases in your book? I would say 50 seasons or more, probably,
Oh yeah.
all trickled in and titrated into this super concentrated phrase.
Oh yeah.
So it is just pattern recognition. I think we've lost some of that.
That's
There's
why
a lot of truth in it.
so much of it is poetry. So
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's
can
going to be
remember it.
100% accurate, but with pattern recognition, probably pretty well established.
Out of all the people that either follow this or interested in this, how many do you think just simply walk outside and say, "Oh, this is what it's going to be today.
Yeah.
It's sunny. That's awesome."
The smart ones.
Okay.
Well, people with some common sense, I believe, is the phrase.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, guess I'll stay inside.
We've had some odd weather so far this spring. March is always a tough month for farmers because if plants decide to get a little energetic before their time, and other things get ahead of themselves a little bit because of the weather, it has been somewhat extraordinary, even by March standards, to be in the 80s and setting records for days at a time, and then follow that by 2 inches of sleet on your car the next morning. And that's happened twice here in Botetourt this not yet spring, and it's gotten bitterly cold. Tara, are you hearing any feedback from anybody or your observations on your farm? Has it already been somewhat destructive or complicating for the growing season?
Well, it's interesting you say that because we have just it's just a hobby. It's for ourselves. So where that barn burned and everything, we decided to replace it with almost like a little micro orchard. So we're up to 19, soon to be 20 trees over there of all different types of stone fruit and apple, pear, peach, all that kind of stuff. And this frost, they were beautiful. The blooms were stunning. And then, damn, if it didn't come. And I think it's probably killed off quite a bit and stunted it. And it's like these plants have had how many generations to perfect? You think there'd be some evolutionary trait here that would say like, ooh, wait up a little bit. But no, they get so excited just like us. They want to burst out, go experience the world, and then done. So yeah, that will probably affect it. So we probably won't have any fruit bearing this year. But yeah, it's interesting. 1-2 nights, that's it.
For gardeners, you can pick your moment. You can pick your time. You can plant too early or plant a little late or whatever. But for trees, that's a whole different prospect. But what as you think ahead to your big garden coming up, Chuck, what are you doing in preparation for this wacky weather? Or are you just kind of waiting it out and you'll just do your regular thing?
no. Well, so there is garden folklore, right? That everybody brings forth when you decide to put a garden in. One of it was if you're going to do potatoes, which we do not, they got to be in by March 17th, which was yesterday.
Okay, I have heard that.
Okay. Which doesn't make a lot of sense because we did that and then they grew up and they were beautiful and then the frost hit and they were gone. But the other piece is that I hear my dad saying, talk about, growing up and hearing your parents over and over again. Don't plant anything until after May the 10th. So that's what we're doing. Now we're getting ready to prepare for stuff to be planted over the next several weeks, but we won't put anything out until after the second weekend in May.
Gotcha.
Barefoot Day?
Is that May 10th?
Is that May 10th?
Barefoot?
Barefoot Day. You're not allowed to go barefoot until after Barefoot Day.
Oh, wow.
Is that May 10th?
I think it's wearing white.
Okay, I got another issue with that, but that's a separate thing. Ugh.
Glad we brought him here. Oh, good. Well, if it's okay with you, since we have Chuck here today, one of the thoughts about our podcast and our executive producer Teresa Reed has been thinking about this for a while, and I know you've been thinking about it a little bit too. Just bringing some sort of message to our podcast. We go through daily, weekly, monthly turmoil, whether it's on our farm, whether it's in our professional lives, whether it's, just hanging out in goofy weather. But we asked Chuck to come and sort of tie things together for us a little bit. Just kind of tell us some of the rest of the story as seen through his lens. So let's see what he has for us today.
That'd be my time, right?
That's how I queued you up. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So here's kind of what I'm feeling and thinking about when we're talking on subjects of the weather folklore or whatever it is that we seem to assimilate to. gravitate to and we think is so very important, as if we have figured everything out. This last Friday morning, I was before the sun, or as the sun was coming up, was on Round Top, which is right across from Devil's Den in Gettysburg. And the sun was just coming up, and there's some small trees there, and they had these big buds on the trees. They were just like they were going to bust by the end of the day. It was beautiful out there. It was serene. It was just so, it's hard to even capture verbally what the experience felt like, knowing what had transpired. But I'm looking at this tree and I'm thinking to myself, we become so concerned about the piece of creation that we kind of monitor and that we think we've perfected, when the Creator knows more about the creation than we do. So when we see trees with early buds and blooms, when we see flowers come out of the ground, and we're concerned about this wacky weather, there is a greater Creator that is caring for creation, and we're assisting in that care for creation. I think it's interesting that we can, like say, for instance, your fruit trees, and I'm not sure which ones that had bloomed, and you lost the buds on those. I have to wonder to myself if, in fact, maybe it's kind of like that deal where you get stopped by the stoplight and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this. And then you find out that just right up the road, someone was involved in an accident, and had you not been stopped by that stoplight, it could have been you. I think on a bigger scale. And I love the folklore pieces that were passed down, and I take note of those, and I appreciate them. And I probably am guilty of passing some along too. Like, they'll be like, well, Grandy used to say. But I think that for a tree to lose its bud or blooms early, maybe that the tree's not ready yet anyway, on some greater scale of this whole creation and the care of creation that we do. So I think that although the folklore stuff is cool, I don't really pay close attention to it, because I know that the one who created everything that we know loves creation and is caring for it despite us and along with us.
And despite us, yes.
And despite us.
Okay, just for good measure. I do like that. Be prepared for expect the best, be prepared for the worst, right. I guess, too, and then just be extremely adaptable and flexible and open to change, too. Always be ready.
That's what we should, because creation creates new every day. So we better be ready for some change.
And if not, how are you ever going to progress? You need that stress to have that ingenuity and that new bright idea, right?
Right.
I mean, that's exactly, even a certain plants, of course, when they get stressed, that's when they're going to bear fruit.
Sure.
No, so maybe that's kind of what we need for the next level for humankind. Maybe not too stressful an event. Let's back that up a little bit. Never know nowadays.
I'll edit that sound out. That was a good one.
I actually caught myself almost doing that Appalachian, that southern thing with that. Yeah, that.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Well, once again, we're here. Let me try that again. 3, 2, 1. Once again, we are just delighted that you decided to spend some time with us today. We thank Chuck for coming on by and providing a little wisdom. And Tara, you and I always have a good time with this. And next podcast, you got to bring your, if you're the better half, is he the lesser half of this conversation?
We're both insignificant others.
Both insignificant others?
Yep.
Wow. Let me ponder that for a little bit. Tom will be with us next time. And one of the things that I think he wants to talk about is the cost of food. Have you been at a store recently, or have you thought about what it takes to produce food and the things that are changing around us? Forget the weather. There's all kinds of other factors involved as well. So we will do a deep dive on that. Chuck will come back and probably give us some wisdom about that, and you'll be smiling all the way through it. And it's great to have your husband here. So we're looking forward to that. We hope you will join us next time on the Forgotten Fields Project. I'm Robin Reed. Hope you go out and make it a great start to the spring.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Forgotten Fields Project. Remember, your likes, downloads, subscriptions, and shares help the podcast grow. Do you have a topic you would like us to explore or a question about our farming community? Simply head to our website, ForgottenFieldsProject.com, and leave us your comment, or reach out to us at info@ForgottenFieldsProject.com. The executive producer is Teresa Reed. Tara Williamson and meteorologist Robin Reed are your hosts. We hope you will join us again next time as we explore more trends in agriculture. And we invite you to explore past episodes wherever you get your podcasts.